good morning. 11 o'clock here, cooking along live on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining me. It is a beautiful day here in Southern California. Beautiful temperatures. I think everyone's really excited about getting out and going to the beach here in the beach cities. So we're just gonna have less than a half an hour of cooking time, and then you'll be able to go out and enjoy your beautiful day. And I'm gonna give you some tips on how you can turn this dish today that we're making, orzo with peas and Parmesan, into whatever dish is pleasing to your taste, your palate. So get ready to cook along with me. Remember to get ready. We want to get our ingredients out, we want to get our equipment out, and we want to start by washing our hands. So I'll go ahead and give you a moment to do your hand washing, and then I'll talk to you about what kind of ingredients that you're going to need for your delicious pesto. And I can't tell you enough about how pesto is such a great recipe to learn and commit to memory, because it's a classic recipe that you can use for so many different reasons. You can put it on pasta, you can put it on top of fish, vegetables, put it into a salad dressing. It is really something that is a lifetime recipe that you will use again and again. So hi, I've got Sedona getting ready to cook along with me. I'm so happy to see you today. And we're gonna wait for a few more people to check in. But as I said, let's go ahead and start the hand washing. And I'm gonna start talking to you about what you need in order to make your dish today. So first, let's talk about the ingredients. So you can see I've got a bunch of ingredients here, but don't worry, it's not that complicated. So good quality olive oil is really important. This is a extra virgin olive oil. That just means it's the second press of the olive oil. Extra virgin is the first press. Extra virgin is the second press. And you can tell how good olive oil is, but just smelling it. It should smell kind of grassy and buttery and yeah, just delicious. Like I said, if you smell something, if you think you like the smell of it, you're probably gonna like the taste of it. I'm using orzo today, but you can use any kind of pasta. Traditionally, pesto is served with a long pasta like angel hair or spaghetti. In Italy, pastas are paired with a sauce, the particular sauce that is perfect for the pasta. So, but I like orzo. My daughter loves orzo. This is a dish actually that we have discovered. I mean, it's been around forever, but she loves it at Malibu Farms on the pier in Malibu. So she learned how to recreate it at home. We make it quite a bit. It's great for our dinner rotation, weekly dinner rotation. So she likes it with broccoli too. So if you're not a fan of peas, broccoli, cooked carrots, tomatoes, asparagus, there's so many different you can use. So orzo, or whatever kind of pasta you have, it could be a long noodle, it could be a small noodle. Great. So then we have garlic. So here's my little favorite cheat. I'm going to show you a couple of my favorite Trader Joe's products. This is peeled already, so you don't have to worry about getting this skins off and making your fingers all sticky. This is already peeled and ready to go. It's in the produce section of Trader Joe's, so it's a hit in our house. We really like it. And then of course you're going to need some beautiful fresh basil. Now, if you don't have fresh basil, that's okay. Pesto can be many different forms. It can be with mint, spinach, arugula, whatever kind of soft herbs. You know, if you wanted to do something really different, you could use cilantro instead of basil. But once again, whatever herb you choose, I just invite you, take a big sniff of it. And sometimes if you rub it between your fingers, you'll get even more of the essential oils. But it just smells so amazing. It smells like summertime. So here's our basil. You can also get those basil plants at Trader Joe's. Those are really fun to get. They're live and you can save them for whenever you need to have a pinch or so of basil. You're also gonna need pine nuts for your pesto. Now, pine nuts are really traditionally classic in pesto. Pesto comes from an area in Italy called Liguria, And the traditional Genova pesto has pine nuts. But if you don't have pine nuts or you don't care for pine nuts, you can use almonds, walnuts, pistachios. They're just endless. You can leave out the nuts altogether. If you are allergic to nuts or you don't care for nuts, you can leave them all out. Pine nuts are really creamy and buttery, so they give it like a really nice texture. So if you have them, once again, give them a smell. They should be toasted before they go in. So I bought the already toasted pine nuts, and I'm wondering if they have salt in them or not. So these are all already toasted and ready to go. But if you don't have toasted nuts, what you can do is you can take a small saute pan, put it on a flame, and just put the nuts in dry and just shake it over the flame until you start to see a little bit of browning. Now you don't walk away from that pan because they can toast very quickly because of the oils in them. So stay by the pan, shake it, just wait for the smell of the nuts to come up, and so you can see the color on the nuts. So pine nuts are another thing that you need. Another thing that you can have, but it's totally optional, it's not traditional, but I like having a little bit of acid in my pesto, so you can either use a vinegar or fresh lemon. Now, this is another one of my favorite Trader Joe's products. It's white balsamic vinegar. So I know that you've all cooked with balsamic vinegar, and it can stain food. So if you put it on a vegetable or a chicken breast, you can see that it turns very brown. This is just as delicious as traditional classic balsamic vinegar, but it doesn't stain your food, and it's so delicious. I'm going to put a splash of this in my pesto, but you could use lemon or you can just leave it out, whatever your taste is. So we're going to make this dish all to your taste. I have a cup of frozen peas as well, but if you wanted to add broccoli, carrots, the only thing I would recommend is that you blanch it ahead of time. So that means that you just cook it in boiling water for about a minute, drain it, refrigerate it, or plunge it in ice. And that way it won't be so crunchy. But if you want to have crunchy, that's fine too. So I've got peas. I've got a block of Parmesan cheese, and I'm going to grate, but you can just get grated Parmesan cheese and put it in your pesto. And I'm going to tell you an important step of when the cheese goes into your dish. And then last but not least, you should already have your pasta all cooked. Now I cooked my orzo in advance. One thing about cooking pasta is that the recipe on the back of the bag is usually pretty accurate for the time that it needs to cook. You need boiling water, rolling boil, so you want to see it really surging. You need to put some salt in it, and some people say it should be salty as the sea. Other people say it should be salty as your favorite kind of soup. Just some salt there to give the pasta some flavor, because there's nothing in here but flour and maybe egg. And then after you cook it, if you've already cooked it in advance, maybe pour a little bit of olive oil in it to keep it from sticking. We're gonna work in some pasta water in here to loosen it up. So it's looking a little sticky right now, but it will loosen up. And that's another thing that I wanted to remind everyone is to save your pasta water. So whenever you make pasta, if you save the pasta water, it can really help enhance your sauces. Whenever they start to get too thick and gluey, just splash in a little bit of pasta water. Don't do too much, just as you need it. Just as you go, a little bit of pasta water, a little bit of pasta water, and then you can kind of adjust the consistency of your sauce. If you didn't save your water, and I know sometimes I just completely forget to save my water, you can use vegetable stock or chicken stock or whatever you want. So there are our ingredients. I don't think I forgot anything, but then equipment, you could use a food processor or a blender, magic bullet. I'm using a mini processor. Just about a cup and a half of ingredients are going to go in there, so it's going to be perfect size for my pesto. Just remember, whenever you're using any kind of machine that cuts up your food, it has some safety features. So this safety feature here is it has to have the bowl, the blade, and then the top has to lock into place before it will turn on. You'll also need a bowl to transfer your pesto into so you can stir in your Parmesan later on. You're going to need your pot with your pasta in it. That's already cooked. If you haven't cooked your pasta already, go ahead and get that water boiling. Get that pasta in there. Orzo takes 9 minutes. Your angel hair takes 5. And then other than some tasting spoons, a bowl for serving, a grater if you are grating your own cheese, and a measuring cup. I'll talk to you about measuring cups in a little bit. So measuring cups. That's all you need. So let me say hello to some of my friends that have checked in. Charlotte is cooking along with us today. And then, hi, Katie. Good place to purchase pine nuts. I got these at Trader Joe's. They're not the Trader Joe's brand, which is surprising because usually they have their own brand. These are Sun Tree pine nuts. And the one thing about pine nuts, using pine nuts in a pesto that is kind of a deterrent for people, is that they're very expensive. So these were $10 for this bag of pine nuts. So if you already have nuts in the fridge, you don't want to make that extra purchase, you don't think you're going to use up a whole bag of pine nuts, use a walnut, use an almond, whatever kind of nut that you have. They're all going to work beautifully in your pesto. Hi, Gabrielle. Great to cook along with you again today. So I'm ready to get started. One thing I wanted to say about pesto, the word pesto derives from Latin. It's an Italian word, and the root of it is, the verb is pistal. So pistal means to crush or to grind. So in the old days when they made pesto, they would use a mortar and pestle to make pesto. So you put your garlic in here and then you crush, and then maybe you transfer it into a different container, and then you'd put your pine nuts in there and you crush, and then you'd put in your basil leaves and you crush. And people still make it like this, but trust me, it's an ancient but really delicious and flavorful way to make pesto. So you put it all in here and you would just grind it and crush it. So that's how the name pesto came into effect. But we're gonna use a food processor today. So I want to get started. Get your food processor set up. Basil leaves. We always want to pick them from the stem. So these beautiful. Basil is so beautiful right now. And I always like to give it a good smell. So it's a cup of basil leaves, and that's packed inside a cup. So here's my cup. I'm going to pack it up and really get a lot of that fresh, vibrant flavor of basil in there. So I did two stems. And again, you could use mint, you could use cilantro, you could use parsley, arugula, spinach. So there's 3 big stems of basil. So my friend Robin's making reference to my big fat Greek wedding because every word actually is from Greek. That's what they say in my big fat Greek wedding, that every word of the language comes from the Greek language. It's a very funny scene. All right, so there's my basil. I'm gonna save the rest for salad, a garnish. I can make a beautiful garnish with this. I've got a cup of fresh basil. It's going into my food processor, bullet, Vitamix, regular blender, and then I've got a clove of garlic. Remember, I love my peeled garlic. It's already ready to go. It's got a little seal here so it stays nice and fresh. It's a good time saver. If you get garlic on your hands and you want to get that smell off, just rub your faucet on your sink and the stainless steel takes away the odor of the garlic. So it's a really quick way to deodorize your hands. So we've got garlic, basil, 2 tablespoons of pine nuts. So 1, 2. I'm gonna put a little extra in. I like it nutty. You can eyeball things. Once you learn this recipe, you'll be able to just throw it together without even measuring. Then we're gonna have a 1/4 cup of olive oil. So here's what I'm gonna talk to you about measuring cups. This is for dry ingredients. So measured my dry basil leaves in here. I would measure flour, pasta, rice, anything that isn't liquid is gonna go into this cup. This cup is for wet. So the reason why is because you can put it down on the table and you can see the line of where you fill up to. Now this recipe calls for a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup. Now that is based on 2 things. Maybe you didn't pack your basil leaves in as much. Maybe it doesn't look as liquidy as you'd like for it to look. So I'm gonna pour in a 1/2 cup of olive oil. Doesn't look like that much on the cup, but when I pour in the olive oil, I can see it's quite a bit. So I'm just gonna start with 1/2 of that. And it goes into the food processor, whatever you're using to make your pesto. Salt and pepper. So you always want to salt and pepper as you go. I'm using Himalayan pink sea salt. I'm going to do with my crank, I'm going to do about 8 little cranks of salt, about 4 little cranks of pepper. I always go 2 to 1, salt and pepper. And then that's all you do. At this point, we're going to put on the top. Remember that safety feature, you have to click it in place. Gabrielle has a question. Awesome tip. Trader Joe's lemon kitchen soap works on garlic too, but your tip is great. So yes, I love the lemon soap too. But yeah, you can go anywhere and find a stainless steel faucet. Like if you're taking a cooking class, you just rub your hands on it. At Sur La Table, they sell these little stainless steel trays you can put on your side of your sink and use those to rub your hands, but why have that extra thing in your kitchen? Just use what you've got. All right, so we got the top on, we've got it seasoned, we've got it ready to go, and we're going to start processing. Now, what I'm looking for when I'm processing is for it to be consistent. I am seeing a lot of dry pieces in my pesto, so I want to add a little bit more olive oil. I want it to be like a paste. That's what I thought pesto meant for a long time. So I'm going to add more olive oil. There we go. So here I am about 3/4, I'm sorry. I've got about 1/4 cup plus like 2 tablespoons of oil in there now. I'm going to push it down with a spatula. I love these little rubber spatulas. Actually, my daughter bought these for me at Daiso, the Japanese store. And they work really well in small little processors like this. So there we go. Process it up. And it should just be like a paste, as I said. But if you didn't have a food processor, you could just chop it, hand chop it, then mix in the oil. So here we go. I've got my pesto, and you can smell it. You can smell all the ingredients together. And I went to Cinque Terre years ago. This is what the mountainsides smell like. This basil and pesto. This is where it's the birthplace of pesto, is in Liguria, where the Cinque Terres are. And I'm just going to put in a splash of vinegar, just because I like the acid. The pine nuts are very buttery, but it's not traditional. You put the acid in, it's your choice. So then here I have my pesto. So you can make it chunky, you can make it smooth, up to you how you want it to incorporate into the dish that you're making. Most important thing, tasting spoon. Give it a little taste. Really delicious. It needs a little bit more salt. That's why we taste. After I process it with a little bit more salt, I'm going to turn it out into a bowl. And this is the part I was telling you about with the cheese. The cheese doesn't go in the food processor. It goes directly into your bowl because the cheese will make it really gluey and gummy and not very pleasant. So here, I'm going to put in my pesto, my traditional classic sauce. It's great on so many things. It's actually consider doing one of the mother sauces. Like if you go to culinary school, it's an expectation that you learn how to make pesto. I can get rid of this. And then I'm gonna grate in my cheese. So I've got a 1/4 cup or 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. Whoa, I gotta get busy. So, because I didn't get cheese that was already grated. So with my microplane, it makes quick work out of a nice chunk of Parmigiano Reggiano. And Parmesan is named for where it comes from. So many things in Italy are named from the region that they're from. So here's about a 1/2 cup. It goes right in. Now I'm gonna fold it with my spatula, which of course I lost it. Where's my spatula? I don't wanna waste any of my pesto, so I'm using my spatula to get it all off the lid of my food processor. I am folding this all together. And then I'm gonna take my Orzo and get ready to heat that up. Now, you could do this right straight out of the pot after you drain your pasta. And remember, when we make pasta, rolling boil, salt, enough salt to taste like the ocean or a good pot of soup. And then you drain it after you've cooked it by the package instructions. So I've got my pot here. I'm going to stir in just a little bit of that pasta water. If you forgot your pasta water, no worries. Just go ahead and use some chicken stock or some, here we go. I know, I have a better idea. I'm just gonna get this right up here. Chicken stock, vegetable stock, it's all gonna work out. So I'm just gonna pour in a tiny little bit of my pasta water. It's flavorful, it's starchy, it's gonna help things, the sauce really come together. I'm gonna pour in my cooked vegetable or my peas, my frozen peas, and I'm just gonna stir, 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 just to get that heated up. Once this heats up, the pesto goes in. Guess what? You could not heat this up and just put your pesto in and you can make a fantastic summer salad. Add some grilled vegetables, some cherry tomatoes, maybe a little bit of lemon zest. You could put some shrimp in, grilled chicken on top. Take that to a potluck this summer and everyone will be really happy with that. Here goes my pesto. Now I started with 2 cups of pasta, a 1/2 cup of peas. My entire recipe of pesto that I made. And then I'm gonna save some Parmesan cheese to sprinkle on top. I'm just gonna keep stirring this so it doesn't get sticky or burn. Let me show you what it looks like. Now, if you think it's too goopy and gluey, that's what your pasta water's for. So, beautiful color. My peas are cooking in there. My pasta's warming up. I think it needs a little bit more liquid, so I'm just gonna add that pasta water in. And it's always a good idea to kind of get in the habit. What we do now is we put the measuring cup in the sink when we drain, and I put the drain on top so my daughter can remember that when she drains the pasta, she's gonna save that water. This is only gonna take about 3 minutes to get all warm, cheesy, melty, again, smelling fragrant and delicious. And of course, last step, you're gonna taste. Let's see if it's, It's almost warm enough, almost heated through. I've got a bowl I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna find a pretty top of the basil to garnish it with. One thing I like to garnish with are these pretty buds that are on top of your basil. So if you look at this basil, just the top is so precious and beautiful. If your heat's too high, this should be on low heat. You gotta keep stirring. If it gets too thick, remember your pasta water. If it doesn't have enough seasoning, salt and pepper. Always salt and pepper as you go. Taste, pepper, This is how you learn how to cook. Practice and tasting. So here we go. I'm all ready to go. I've got my wonderful Orzo Pesto with pea pasta, Parmesan cheese. Now, as I said, this is one of my daughter's favorite. We started making it after we went to Malibu, the Malibu Farms. This is hot. I'm gonna get rid of it. Malibu Farms. So that's where we fell in love with it, and now we make it all the time. It's on the weekly rotation. I've got Adriana and her family watching. I'm so happy to see you guys. I'm so happy you're back in Redondo Beach. Here's my, oh shoot, what did I do with my cheese? There it is. Here's my microplane. Okay, so here we go. Beautiful, little, delicate sprinkling of cheese. If you wanted to make this really pop with color, you could add in some cherry tomatoes on top. Like I said, you can put a little bit of basil leaves on top. You could cut them, make a little chiffonade. Remember those thin ribbons of basil? So, here we go. Orzo pasta, peas, pesto, Parmesan cheese. I hope you enjoy it. I'm gonna have this for lunch today. I hope that you have it for lunch as well. But remember, you can have this dinner time. You can watch this video anytime. If you wanna make it again and you need a reminder of what the recipe is. It's also fabulous summer salad. If you have any questions, go ahead and just keep posting them. I'll be on this feed until, probably for the next half hour. I'd love to see your comments. I'd love to see your pictures. And I also want to announce that next week we'll be doing some grilling for Father's Day. So I'm excited to share some great grilling tips with you. I hope you have a delicious day. Keep watching, keep cooking along. And again, congratulations for finishing your school year. All right, Chef Diane signing out. Thanks so much.